Little bit of 8-bit heaven for you there. The Broke Amateur N6PUD podcast with some 8-bit heaven there for you. From the fine folks over at purple-planet.com. I wanted to do a quick podcast here today. It is 1/11/2022. So, the Broke Amateur podcast. Broke Amateur N6PUD. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about me and my introduction into the wonderful world of amateur radio. And how I got into it and all that other good stuff. So, this is just a short, not real quick, but a short Wednesday or Tuesday night podcast. In the background, I've got some 75 meter going in the background. Actually, it seems like some of the stations, I don't know, maybe it's how I have everything tuned up. But anyway, let's see, where do I start? A little bit after 8 o'clock. So my name is Tim. My amateur call sign is N6PUD, November 6 Papa Uniform Delta. And I can be found on all the major social platforms, Facebook, TikTok. Yeah, I've even got a TikTok channel. I've got a Getter channel, or Getter, whatever the hell you want to call it. Getter, Instagram, N6PUD, Twitter, N6PUD. I'm all over, man. I don't post to all the platforms, but I'm everywhere you want to go. Yes. So I am basically here. I did a real quick kind of a rundown. I've also in the background, I've got some D-Star going on. I am monitoring Reflector 1 Charlie. I would key it up and identify, but then people will want to talk to me. And I don't really want to talk to anybody right now on the radio. So let's see. So basically, I've got a podcast coming up on Saturday that I'm going to do. The first podcast that I have up on this channel is an introduction to those of you that are interested in the exciting world of amateur radio, and you're interested in getting your technician license. And I had mentioned too in the previous podcast that I did. This is a video version. Maybe you want to see my ugly face and my bald head. I had mentioned that, the amateur license nowadays does not require a code. Any of the amateur licenses do not require a code. You do not have to know Morse code to get your amateur license. And I wanted to stress that. And if you look up at I'm going to do a video version of this, and I'll also do a audio version of this. So we'll rip this into a audio version of the podcast and a video version, which I will post over on, I'll probably post it over on YouTube, also youtube.com, N6PUD, also up there. So anyway, I'm doing this podcast here on anchor.fm. I want to say hello to the fine folks over at anchor.fm. And I'm setting up monetizing and all that stuff. And we'll do all that stuff a little bit later. But me, back to who I am and how I got into amateur radio. So years and years and years ago, we'll say maybe 22 years ago, I used to talk exclusively on 11 meter like most ham operators nowadays. But a lot of the ham operators, they don't like to admit that they were once on 11 meters, which is CB radio. Me, I don't care. It actually, there's some 11 meter right there for you. There, there's some 11 meters for you. It's dead. Yeah, it is dead. Now, let's see. Maybe we can get some chatter on 19. There you go. There's some 11 meters chatter. A little distant out there. The antenna's up about 45 feet in the air. So I had a good friend of mine years and years ago. He and I kept in contact up until about 2008, and basically I never went and got my amateur license. I always found some reason to not get it. And back in 2020, at the height of COVID-19 and all that other stuff, I took my technician license on December, I want to say the 18th or 19th of 2020. I passed my technician license. I think I missed 4 or 5. And then I waited another year. Actually, no, it wasn't quite a year. It was actually a little less than a year. I got my general on December 4th of 2021. And remember, I got my technician license on the 4th on the 18th, and my license was in the database on the 20th or the 21st of December. So, yes. Thank you. And I just waited and never got my license. And one day myself and another friend of mine, Alex N6VDR, who loaned me the ICOM 745 with his MFJ Deluxe Versa Tuner 2. And this radio is in pristine condition, very well taken care of. It's a real nice radio. But anyway, I got into amateur radio, and I talk. To be honest with you, I'm not a big super talker. I'm really not. I love to listen. I'm obsessed with D-Star. D-Star is an awesome. I'm going to get into a little bit about that on the podcast that I do this week, and I'm probably going to end up doing it on Friday. Maybe I'll do a later pod. See, there's some D-Star. If you look up at the dashboard on my monitor, you can see the person's call sign. Pretty cool. And that is D-Star. There's D-Star. There's YSF, which is Yaesu Fusion. There's DMR. Did I miss any? There's also P25. Pretty much all of those digital modes, amateur radio has kind of adapted to and made it their own. And actually, the D-Star, some Japanese amateurs put everything together back in the late 90s. I believe it was 99, and created D-Star. And ICOM said, hey, we like it. We want to make it ours. So there you go. Boom, you've got D-Star. D-Star is basically, I'll get into a little more detail about it on my weekend podcast here, but I wanted to pop in and say hello and get everything ready to rock and roll for the weekend. So, but I real quick, the podcast that I'm going to be doing this week, and I'm going to talk a little more about your technician license and what to do once you've got it. And I did a podcast before explaining it, but I'm going to go a little more into detail because there's so many things that you can do with your technician license that a lot of people just don't know about. Okay, so you passed it. Now, what are you going to do now that you have it? What is your next step? What are you going to do now that you've got it? And the biggest thing that you need to do, if you don't have a bunch of, me, I had an Elmer. I had a couple of Elmers. One of them is Jack, and he doesn't like to be called an Elmer for whatever reason. But Jack doesn't like to be called my Elmer, but he is. He is. And him and Alex, N6VDR, N6FTW, they came over here. Those guys spent 2 weekends putting up this antenna system that I have over here. And, you know, it was a pain in the butt because they couldn't get everything dialed in. That is annoying. Hold on, let me turn down that 75 meters. And anyway, they spent 2 weekends over here and got everything dialed in and got me up and running and on HF. HF is a lot of fun. So if you hear people talking about HF, all HF is shortwave radio, man. That is it. It's a wire. It's wires all over your house. So that is HF, high frequency, and also, if you're a broke amateur like me, high funds. So, and I learned that as a tech. I learned that you got to have funds to play with HF. HF is a lot of fun. You know, during the daytime, you got 40 meters, you got 20 meters, which are usually pretty active, and then you've got some other bands, not so much, that aren't. But you know, and we'll go into a little more detail about that on the weekend. I want everyone to know that when you're a tech and you're thinking, well, what can I do? Well, I'm going to go into more detail about that because, I don't think a lot of people realize that you have access to HF frequencies. You've got 28.3 to 28.5. Upper sideband, obviously, because it's the beginning of the HF bands there for the technician. So 28.3 to 28.5 is where it all starts, man. And that's basically, to be honest with you, right now, because the conditions aren't real big on 10 meters. We're at the bottom of the new cycle that's starting, cycle 25. So if you're going to be on 10 meters, man, 28.3 to 28.5 is superb for a tech. That's where everybody's talking anyways. When you upgrade and you get your general, you've got all at 10 meters. You've got all at 12 meters. 17's yours, but let's not jump ahead. Let's just remember that we're a technician. You've also got 6 meters. There's not a lot going on 6 meters, but the cool thing is when you're a tech, you've got 2 meters, you've got 70 centimeters, and if you go to, I could share it on here right now, but those of you that are listening instead of watching would not see it. But if you go to the ARRL and you look where you have permission as a technician, it'll give you a whole area of the bands that are available to you as a technician. And it's awesome because, believe it or not, as a technician, you've got some great areas to play. But just check this out too. So even as a technician, if you own a radio that does single sideband on 2 meters and 70 centimeters, which everybody calls it 440, you can talk on single sideband on there. There's a lot of places that you can have fun. So anyway, I still play with Citizens Band. I've got an old HR 2510 that does 10 meters, and it also does 11 meters. And I have a bunch of radios. So let me show you what I got over here right now. Let me see if I can move this camera so you can see what I've got. Let's take a look. There's my ICOM ID 5100. There it is. Let me straighten that out. There you go. There it is. ICOM ID 5100. On the left-hand side is my hotspot. And on the other tuner is my local 144.895. That is the Lake Elsinore repeater, W6CDW. Okay. Up here is my 32-year-old HR 2510. Let me see if it'll clear that up for you. There's the HR 2510. See that? 27185. That is channel 19. And then here is a borrowed radio of mine. I say mine, it's not mine. That is an ICOM. And let's see. ICOM IC 745. Here's an old Connex. Okay, so kids, if you're looking at that, ignore that. And that is my D104 Lollipop. And over here, if I can, that is a TYT MD380. It's a dual band, analog and digital, HT, handy talkie. This is my Pi Star. It's the DVM, I believe. Yeah. There's D Star. Okay. And I think that's it. And you know, my power supplies, there's the radios. My desk is real dirty, people. So don't judge me. All right. So and let me see if I can fix that so you can see my beautiful face. Okay, there we go. So you can see my beautiful face, and it's sideways. What the heck. And there's some other, some other cool things. So, say you're one of those people that can't have 100 antennas outside of your house. You live in a homeowners association, and, you just want to stick one up in your attic. You can do that. Or let's do this. I'm going to show you something really, really cool. If you follow my videos on Getter, on Instagram, on what's the other one called? I can't even think of the name of it right now. TikTok, that's it. I've put in some really, really cool videos. Very cool videos. So let me show you this dashboard. See if it'll zoom into it. You see that? See what it says there at the very top? DMR. Okay. There's your DMR. Remember I said YSF? There's your YSF. If you look up there, off to the left, YSF. Okay. RF, which is D-star. REF, reflector. Okay. NXDN, which is exclusive to Kenwood. That's there. There's NXDN. Honestly, people, I've never done NXDN, but if I wanted to, I could. But I've never done it before. Remember I said P25? That's a Motorola thing, guys. There it is right there, P25. Now, the name of this app is DroidStar. Hence Droid. It's a Android based application. Then there's also DudeStar. Anyway, to use DMR, to do D-Star, there's the guy's call sign, N6PUD. There's another conversation there. So to do these modes, these are digital FM modes. All of them are all at some point and a VoIP connection to a network, and if you're not using your Pi Star or Zoom Spot, whatever you're using, if you're going through a repeater, that repeater is going through the internet to connect everything. So, but if you're one of those people like me that's broke and doesn't have a lot of money, but you want to be an amateur operator and you want to play with those digital modes, and you don't have the money to run out and buy a radio right now, check that out. There it is. Droid Star. And the best part, guys, is it's free. So, I'm going to talk more about this weekend. When you get that amateur license, when you get that technician ticket, as everybody says, once you've got it, all you got to do is go and register. So say you ran out and you bought yourself an ID 52 or an ID 5100. They still sell them. And you want to get on D-Star, or you've got your general. You got access to it all now. You know what I mean? And you've got that general license. Or, you've got an ICOM 7100 or whatever. One of them that's got D-Star. You've got to register that. And you go and you register it. And you register it and you're good to go. And you'll get an ID for your what am I saying, Droid Star, for your D-Star, and you're rocking and rolling. And then you've got to go to register your DMR ID. And again, I said I'll talk more about that this weekend on the show that I do this weekend. We'll have a lot of fun. So I just wanted to point that out to you guys. So there's another cool thing too. Once you get your license, and I'll go more into that this weekend as well. There's a really cool app out there. Really, really cool app. And this will work on your Android and your Apple device. So if you got a tablet or your iPad, it'll work on your iPad. Echolink. I don't know if you can see that or not. Looks like a radio tower. It says Echolink. Whoops. Well, I dropped it, and I dropped my camera. My apologies. Okay, let's try that again. It's called Echolink. Let's get it back up there. Echolink. And Echolink. Okay, so Echolink is a VoIP. Most amateur repeater systems throughout the United States and throughout the world are all connected to Echolink. I don't want to say all of them, because if I said that, I would be lying. But most of the amateur repeaters that I know of are all hooked up to Echolink. And Echolink is a voice over IP, and it's connected through a computer system, and it puts you out on the air, and you can talk right from your tablet. You can also use your computer to connect to Echolink with your microphone right here. Your Android device, your Apple device, and you are rocking and rolling. So anyway, we'll get more into that. We'll get into that more on the weekend podcast. So just wanted to give you guys a little insight to what's going on here. My apologies. This was a spur of the moment thing that I wanted to do, just to kind of put some more content on my podcast platform here, or on my podcast. So put some more activity on the podcast site. So, yeah. So if you guys find or found this video useful, subscribe to it. There will be many, many more to come, provided I have the time. So, like I said, I'm on all the major social platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Did I miss any? Facebook, everything. N6PUD. So, very good. So anyway, I will go ahead and I will end this thing here. And yeah, my tablet dropped. Hopefully I didn't crack it. I don't think I did, but yeah. So it's been real, and hey, from me to you, N6PUD, I will be clear. 7-3 all, and please come back and take a look at the podcast, share it, follow me on all my major social media outlets, or whatever you want to call it. So thank you very much for tuning in. This is N6PUD. Until next time, this is the Broke Amateur N6PUD podcast. 7-3, guys.